Morning, everybody. It is May 2nd, 8:10 a.m. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday you had a little bit lower volume because some countries had a holiday, so that made that price action a little tempo a little slow. However, we gapped up, we held, pushed up higher initially, but actually yesterday, tech wasn't really the strongest. Market cap weight and my internals weren't the strongest all day. I can show you right here in the market internals. You can see right here, see this white line is equal weight. Like that's if every sector was weighted equally. That was stronger all day than actually what moves the market, right? And then I talked about the um, the levels that we ran into on the daily chart, which were the anchored VWAPs for this year. All right, and you can see both. I'm going to show you this real quick. Both the Qs right here closed right at the anchor VWAP for the year, and right here the SPY closed right under the anchor VWAP and the 50-day moving average. So that was trouble. I'm assuming people maybe took profits. You can see this wick. So that was where I didn't think that there was much room higher for the market yesterday, and that proved right. I don't have a trade to show for it. I did short, but that short got stopped. And when I got stopped, it was because of Trump. But I'm gonna forget what he said now. There was something with Trump that like blew my stop out. And then shortly after that, oh, Nvidia. That's what he talked. He said Nvidia they're gonna have some exemptions for their tariffs or something about chips or something about Nvidia, and then that powered Nvidia higher. And then it was like, okay, great. But that's what's going on right now overall. Right, we're waiting on the non-farm payrolls, unemployment. We had Apple and Amazon report earnings. Market didn't really like Apple and Amazon's earnings. Now Amazon's almost flat now. Okay, Apple is down 3.34%. Okay, so that initially brought the markets down. Then they recovered, right? They recovered, and what I'm seeing is I think China hinted at a trade deal or something. So that's what's going on. Remember, 8:30 we'll go over the news. All right. So hopefully, you know, you join me every day. All right. Subscribe, set that alert. Give you the lowdown of the markets, the story. Right. Give you the story. Give you the market news, the economic calendar, leaders and laggards, and we go over daily charts. Triple headed monster, which is your bond market, your dollar, and your VIX, and then we go into the Nasdaq and ES futures analysis. Okay, and then I give you long and short trade scenarios. And that's pretty much it. Okay, now just introduce myself. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, and the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's my edge. That's the way I look at the market, see who's in control, come up with a game plan, and that's what you'll see later on. Now, I also use market internals, which I should have showed you earlier. That's under the hood, what's moving the market. And the market cannot outperform the internals. I've never seen it happen because it can't. So that's my bread and butter. As long as I'm under a VIX, a 30 VIX, that really helps me stay on the right side. Okay. All right. Let's look at futures market here. See what's moving markets. All right. Looks like gold. People are buying the dip in gold. Up 1.51. Russell's up 0.80. Dow's up 0.45. ES moved around on me. Up 0.38. Silver's up 0.37. Nasdaq's up 0.30. Bitcoin's up 0.27. 30-year bonds are pretty much flat, up 0.11. 10-year yield is down slightly but flat. The dollar is down 0.48. Ethereum down 0.86. Crude's been taking a beating, down 1.13 on oversupply and demand concerns if our economic activity keeps going down. Okay, the VIX The VIX is down 2.20%, right at 24 VIX. Okay, that's the futures. Max 7. Let's look at it. Leading the pack, Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly took a beating yesterday. Closed at 794, but this morning, I guess people are buying that dip. Up 2%. Up 2%. All right, then we got Broadcom up 1.74, Meta's up 1.10, Berkshire Hathaway up 1.06, Nvidia's up 0.90, Google's up 0.84, Coinbase up 0.75, JP Morgan up 0.65, Boeing up 0.52, GE up 0.48, AMD up 0.31, Tesla's up 0.25, Netflix up 0.15, Microsoft up 0.14. Amazon is flat now. Flat. They were down, but they're flat. Apple is the laggard, down 3.34 after earnings. All right. Moving on to the guts of the market, the sectors here. Here we go. Here's your risk on, risk off indicator here. Semiconductors up 1.24%, followed by financials up 0.76, followed by healthcare. Healthcare has been taking a beating. Beaten. Okay. Eli Lilly went down yesterday. United Healthcare still at around the 400s. Hasn't been down there in a long time. So I'm thinking that's going to get a pump sooner or later. Okay. Industrials up 0.46 and utilities up 0.42. So the sectors are all looking nice here. All right. However, with Apple being down, technology is the lagger, but it's flat. That's because Apple. Okay. That's because of Apple. So everything's kind of up now. This is kind of skewing it because into the close yesterday, the market sold off. Right. In futures, it actually came all the way down and closed by the close of the previous day. All right, actually filled the gap in futures. In the SPY, it didn't, but in futures, it actually filled the gap. Okay, so that's what's going on with your sectors. Let's look at the economic calendar together. All right, what do we have here today? We have non-farm payrolls. We're expecting 130K jobs added. Previous 228. All right, previous 228. Unemployment, we're expecting 4.2. Previously 4.2. Okay, that's what's on today. Now we got factory orders. Usually isn't a market mover that much at 10 a.m. All right, but everybody's going to be eyeing this. That's going to be your bond market, your dollar. That will move basically based on these numbers. Okay. Now, just to review earnings, okay, remember Amazon, Apple, Riot, Airbnb, Reddit, Atlassian all reported, AIG reported after the close. This morning before the open, Fubo TV, Exxon, Chevron, all right, Cigna, and Wendy's all reported this morning. Okay. Now, moving back, we are going to look at some of those results here. So Apple stock fell 2.9% after the iPhone maker trimmed its share buyback program by 10 billion. With CEO Tim Cook estimating that tariffs could add about 900 million in costs this quarter. Okay. Amazon stock fell 0.8 after the e-commerce giant reported first quarter cloud revenue growth and forecasted operating income below estimates, disappointing investors. Airbnb stock fell by 5.2% after the short-term rental company issued a weak outlook for the second quarter. All right. Exxon stock rose 1% after oil major beat expectations for the first quarter profit as higher oil and gas production from Guyana and the Permian Basin helped boost earnings. Chevron stock fell 2% after the oil producer reported first quarter earnings that met expectations as the company saw a turnaround in its refining business from a loss late last year. Cigna stock rose 1.1 after the health insurer reported stronger than expected first quarter results, seeing growth across its diversified portfolio of businesses and raises full year guidance. All right, Block. All right, stock slumped 21% after the payments firm cut its profit forecast for 2025 and missed estimates for the quarterly earnings as it grappled with muted consumer spending. All right, moving on to some more news here. Let's see. I don't want to repeat anything, so let's look at this here. All right, so we're going to get right into this. Amid ongoing trade tensions, optimism is growing for a potential de-escalation of the U.S.-China trade war. Following, here we go. This is why I believe the markets recovered. Following Beijing's statement that that is evaluating an offer from Washington to engage in talks, the news sparked a rise in global stocks, with Wall Street futures trading higher as investors overlooked disappointing earnings from Apple and Amazon. Okay, now as far as oil prices dropped as traders adjusted positions ahead of an upcoming OPEC plus meeting. Gold rose on bargain hunting. The dollar weakened as investor sentiment improved towards riskier assets, with traders waiting the release of U.S. jobs data later in the day. Okay. Let's see. AIG, the company reported lower first quarter profit on Thursday as the inferno that scorched more than 16,000 structures in Los Angeles in January led to higher catastrophe losses. Okay. I'm just going to look at some other things here, see if there's any other news. Let's see. Reddit, social media platform, forecasts second quarter revenue above Wall Street estimates on Thursday, betting on a growing digital advertising spend on the social media platform despite uncertainty over marketing budgets. Chief Operating Officer Jen Wong said Reddit's total number of active advertisers grew more than 50% in the first quarter from a year ago. The company expects current quarter revenue of 410 million to 430 above analyst estimates. Nice. This is Roku. The company trimmed its annual revenue for expectations and forecast second quarter revenue below Wall Street estimates on Thursday. Okay. What else here? Tesla, the car maker, sales of some European markets fell sharply in April, in an acceleration of a trend seen since the beginning of the year for Elon Musk's EV brand as Europeans buy more Chinese cars and some protests against his political views. Tesla's new car sales in April fell by 80.7% in Sweden. National data showed a day after Denmark recorded a 67.2% drop in Tesla sales, and France reported a 59.4% fall in the fourth straight month of the sales contraction. All right. So let's go look at some. So Amazon, Piper Sandler cuts target price from 215 to 212. Apple, Wedbush raises target price to 270 from 250. Interesting. Eli Lilly, Leerink Partners cuts target price 944 from 989. Mastercard, Raymond James raises target price to 655 from 640. McDonald's raises target price to 360 from 349. All right, that's going to wrap up that. I don't think the juice had much in here for me here. All right, so we're going to circle back here when that data drops in about 7 minutes. We can go over, let me go over some, the AII. Let's just see if this reset here, or it's the same, because I think that the sentiment comes out on Wednesday or Thursday. I don't remember. So let's see, the bearish, 59% bearish. Let's look at the bulls real quick. The bulls aren't. There's only 20% of the investors are bullish. All right. And just real quick, look at that bullish percent index after yesterday. Of the S&P, it's at 67% of stocks are on buy signals. Of the NASDAQ 100, 75% of stocks are on buy signals. I would say that's a little frothy. Okay. It's a little frothy, but obviously markets can go higher. Okay, doesn't mean it can't. All right, that's just some things I'm looking at. And we go overall breadth indicator here. Remember, percentage of stocks over the 20 simple moving average, 78. It was at 80 yesterday. Still, that's a little bit of frothy. You can go all the way up to 90, and then we'd have to reevaluate what's going on with the markets. Okay, let's go to daily charts before we hit these news. Okay. And just see what we did yesterday, right? Because I said it looked a little frothy. I'm not talking about a sell-off, just where it was, right? Gapped up above the 50-day moving average, and you had to contend with the anchored VWAP of this year, and the SPY could not close above it. Got that wick, right? We're above last week's highs. This is last month's highs right up here at 567. Okay, so we did close above the 50-day moving average. Okay, we did close above. Let's look at the Qs. Right, the Qs broke this downtrend. Right, closed right on the anchor VWAP of this year, 2025 anchor VWAP, right there. Closed right on it. Closed also above last month's highs. Above last month's highs. Okay. Now, if you look to the left, I talked about this as well. See this big consolidation? I said that that's going to be hard to just push right through. That proved the same thing in the SPY. Just gonna go back to the SPY, same thing. It's this big consolidation, right? You're right in the middle of it almost. You're probably going to get stopped dead in your tracks from it, and that's kind of what happened. That was some of my thesis on my short yesterday until Trump mentioned a curb on Nvidia, and then it blew right through my stop. And then I was like skittish about shorting again, and then what happened? The market fell, which always kind of sucks, but that's trading. Okay. Now, real quick, we can look at our bond market. Right, our triple-headed monster here. All right. So the bond market, right, pushed all the way up. Now we're trending lower. It's getting a little love today, but right at last week's lows. Have to see what the bond market does. Obviously, this will change once that unemployment number comes out. All right. Now, looking at the dollar. Remember, I said I'd like to get bullish on the dollar eventually. And you're getting kind of like this inverse head and shoulders here. Finding resistance at the 20-day super moving average. But if you start to break up, you got this poor structure here. You could definitely clean this up. All right. Now the VIX. That VIX, let's look at it. All right. We're kind of in this little bit of a range here. Right. We're still above 20. So let's see what these numbers do. Right. Because that's going to affect things. Okay. That's going to affect things. All right. And that's your triple-headed monster here. All right. And now we got a little time. So let's look at the Dow and the Russell. All right, here's the IWM. So let's get rid of this trend line here. Small caps broke this trend line. All right. So notice with the IWM anchor VWAP for the year all the way up here. It's not by it, right? Not by it at all. So you can see there's an uptrend here. Okay, so that's got kind of a ascending triangle here. So very important right here, level. See if it can move above 196. Okay, still under the 50-day moving average. All right, there's that big consolidation that the other indexes have. Looking at the Dow. All right, the Dow had a major trend line here. Look at that trend line. That's really kind of was acted as support here. All right, broke this. Let me get rid of that. All right, so this is your Dow. We're going to put this trend line right here. I mean, I could move it here, which would, but I'm going to move it right there. Okay, you can see the 2024 anchored VWAP. That's what it just broke above, right? That just broke above that, right? You can see key resistance here at 407. Hit the downtrend line and sold off yesterday. Now still under the 50, still under the anchor VWAP of this year, and there's that consolidation. Okay, so that's your Dow. Remember, the Dow's only 30 stocks. Only 30 stocks. And the largest holding now used to be United Healthcare. I believe is probably Goldman Sachs now. It's a price-weighted index. It's a price-weighted index. So now Goldman Sachs probably, whatever that does, is going to move the market. All right, we're going to move on because that is going to be dropping in about 15 seconds. Okay, let's watch price first on an hourly chart. We'll watch price first. All right. All right. Here we go. So the news dropped. Little pulse up. Little pulse up into supply, which could get ripped right through just because it's data. Now it's very interesting with these numbers. Let's look at the numbers because it could go both ways, right? It could signal a recession. It could signal a cut. Let's see what the results were. Okay, so as far as non-farm payrolls, we added more jobs than expected. Okay, added more jobs than expected. Unemployment stayed the same at 4.2. Okay, so unemployment unchanged, and we added more jobs. So that's I I would say that's probably not a reason to cut rates, but that also is it's so weird now, bad news and good news now, because it can go cut both ways, right? So right now the market's liking it. Market is liking the numbers. Unemployment stayed the same. You know, unemployment rises up, you start to get recession risks, right? Um, so we're breaking this supply zone, right? And this is a nice. I don't know if I'm gonna call it bear market. We barely got into 20%, but this is a nice rally. Okay, this is a nice rally. Now, one thing I'm gonna look at here is the Fed Watch tool, and let's just see here at the next Fed meeting is May 7th. Okay, current rate is at 4.25 and 4.5, right? Well, right now, right now, 95% of a pause still, right? I think if unemployment went up, right, um, that would have maybe said, okay, right? Now let's look at probabilities. Not that one. There's something else I saw here that I liked. I just saw it the other day too. It was like a nice chart. Compare. That's it. There it is. All right, so this is pretty cool. So look, that's 1 month ago, 1 week ago, 1 day ago. That's today. So look, as we went, it was an 89% and it just kept growing. Now today, 95%. Okay. Of a cut, it went down. So we're looking at a pause, right? Looking at a pause. And if we go back to the hourly chart, you can see that we just broke these highs, and now people are probably taking profits. You have a demand zone that just formed right there. Okay. So we have to see. Now remember what I said about where we're at in the chart. Okay. Now if we look back, I just want to show you. You zoom out. Let's put it on like a 4-hour chart, just to show you where we're at. Okay. Oh, it's not going to give me the levels. That's the one thing I don't like about NinjaTrader, that their anchored VWAPs are not like they're not time agnostic. They actually like when the time you put them on. So the bottom line is this right here is for futures, the anchored VWAP, not from the year, from the all-time highs. And in ES, you can see we broke that yesterday, and now we're holding above it. Now I added an anchor VWAP from this swing low that day we sold off, and you can see so far that hasn't been even tested. So right in this demand zone could be a nice uh, nice buying opportunity. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down, and we're gonna start analyzing this market together. Let's real quick do a check-in with futures. The VIX has dropped more, right? Dollar pretty much down. Crude's recovering. Okay. Russell really pushing up. Gold's up. Everything's up more. 10-year yield is actually getting more love. Okay, so very interesting here. Very, very interesting. All right, let's move on. We are going to do analysis. Okay. And before we do that, let me just put a little demand zone here so I have a, I'll show you guys that. Let's do a demand zone here just so I can put this here. We can have it when we do analysis. So let's see if that even has 2-hour demand. I don't know if it will. Yeah, it kind of does. All right. All right, so I'm going to take this demand, put that right there, right there. All right. I'm going to keep that supply because I know that's a very important level. All right. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to our market profile and volume profile. Let's look at that ES together. And there's like beautiful levels here to talk about. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Let's look at what happened yesterday. Okay. Yesterday, opened up, right? Did a little dipsy do here like this, went down, got bought up. Internals were strong, but I said tech was weak. Then we came up and then sold off. Then we chopped around a lot until we came up here and sold off with Apple and Amazon earnings. Okay. And then we closed right here. Okay. Pretty sure that's the close. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll look at it in a second here. All right, let's take this back. Yeah, we closed here. Now remember, futures, I have it at a 4:15 p.m. close, so we closed down here. Okay. Right there. All right. So now, looking at this profile, you can see that's that sell-off day. That's the bottom of our profile. Then we have a distribution, and now we have a distribution higher. Most traded price is still 55.50. It hasn't pulled price higher yet. But now look at price. Price is right here. Okay. And we just have a beautiful levels to look at. Okay. Beautiful levels to look at. We are close to 90% net long right now. Okay. Right here is the short activity to all this long activity. Okay. The thing is, though, all these shorts were initially short. So, very interesting. Okay. Now, the level, you can't get any more of a clear level than 56.01 with this demand zone. That is the level bulls need to defend. Look at that low here. This was yesterday's overnight. This was yesterday's lows. This was overnight lows. So that is an area to defend for the bulls. Okay, and the easiest one up here is 56.82 to 80. You have confluence high here. You just broke the supply zone. Right? Most traded price of the overnight's right here. Okay. So there's the most traded price of yesterday. So I'm actually gonna get rid of this demand zone. I mean supply zone. That's gone. All right. And this is our levels really. This is it. All right. So let's mark this off. I'm gonna put this most traded price of yesterday, and you have the month to date VWAP right there. I'm gonna mark this off demand zone right here. This is really, and you got little single prints right here. So this is we're gonna start the plan. All right, let's do long and short trade scenarios here. We're gonna start off with the bull case. We're all the way up here, right? So I don't like to just go long, okay? You have a naked VPOC right there. That is an untested most traded price of a day. It's never been touched again from the past. Okay, these act as magnets. Now, if you're a bull, you're going to want to see a couple things. Okay. For me, okay, let's see if you break that overnight high, right? People take some profits and you get a little pullback. You're either going to hold this most traded price of yesterday, and even if you touch into this demand in the month of day view up, you could definitely start to go lower highs and start to go higher. Okay, around 57.40 is the next supply zone. Now, we are still battling the anchored VWAP from 2025 this year on the daily charts in the SPY in the QQQ. And to the left is that big consolidation. Remember that? So this is why I'm like, man, you need some nice fuel to get through that. So it makes me a little cautious. Okay, makes me a little cautious. Now, if we get a bigger pullback, right, past this demand zone, right, let's say we come down here. This is my only time that if the market is not extremely weak, come down into this. This could be a bear trap. Boom, sweep some liquidity here. Whoop, recover, lower high, lower high. You can make yourself probably up to here. I wouldn't think you start to go all the way up here. You never know. That's kind of all I'm interested in. Okay, let's look at the bear side. Ooh, that's that. I didn't want to do that. I can't undo that. All right, let's put this level here again. Okay, so talk about the bear side. Now, remember what I said on that daily chart. We have just came long ways, and we've been moving up, moving up, moving up, moving up, right? So, and it all depends again how internals shake out, how what's moving the markets today. Okay. Now, if you're a bear, I would like to see that high, this confluence high, 58,682 taken out, hit that naked VBOC, come down, make a lower high, and then you're going to test the levels that I talked about. You're going to test the most traded price of yesterday and the anchor VWAP from this month. Okay. If you bust through that, you're definitely going to slide down and test this 5600, let's call it for simplicity. Okay. You can get a bounce here. However, if you don't bounce and you start hanging out, you're going to break it. If you break under this level, okay, and the market gets weak, you're going to go down to 5550. 5550. We're going to erase these gains, and we're going to then be at a point where you're going to be like, wow, market's got to make a decision. You don't want to lose that level because you're going to go all the way down back to these lows. Now, I'm not saying that will happen in one day, but that right now, like I said, we've come a long way. Remember, May is seasonally usually bearish. I don't know what's going to happen. It's got to give you the scenarios. Okay. Moving on to the Nasdaq. Here's our Nasdaq. Same structure, basically. Okay. Same structure. That 195 is our monster level, our bull bear line. You have ultimate balance there. Most traded price of the week and the month at 195. That is your bull bear line. Okay. Market needs to stay above this to be bullish. Okay. Now you have a beautiful, beautiful level here. The man zone here. And that's that 197.48 level. As you can see, it was support, support, support. Bulls need to defend that level. Okay. Now we do have, I didn't chart it. Oop. Let me make this here so we can see the bars. I forgot to do that in the other ones. So there is going to be demand right in here. So we'll talk about it. All right. Now we did hit supply yesterday right there. Sold off. So this level becomes a level of importance right up there. Okay. We are close to right here The hell am I talking about now? I just lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Um, all right, so let's get rid of that supply zone. That's no longer valid. Okay. All right, so that's a resistance above that you have to be paid attention to. Now the next level here is this level that encompasses the most traded price yesterday and this support in the overnight. Okay. So we are 100%, close to 90% net long, right? We got that beautiful level down here. Don't have as perfect a level up top, but we have yesterday's highs to talk about. Very balanced profile. Very balanced. Okay. Like I said, very tricky market. Very volatile. Every time you think, ooh, we're going down, we go all the way back down to the lows. That's just volatility. Okay. So if we're going to talk about bullish case here, it's kind of the same thing as what I said in the ES. You can move up, maybe go into this supply, start to sell off, come down to the most traded price in this area. You could bounce and really bust out. Okay, really make a move. I'm not saying we go this high, but possibly I don't have any levels up here. Okay, but we had that consolidation to the left of us. That could be a problem, right? We did come a long ways. Okay, when we couldn't, if we can move the most traded price up here, that's very bullish. That hasn't happened yet. Okay, now if the market happens to break through this level, you got this major level 197.48. Market needs to hold this. Okay, could get a bear trap and push, and then you really can make a move up. All right. If you lose that, you're going to go down to 195. That is not a bullish scenario for me. Okay. That's what I'm seeing there. Now, as far as a bear side, okay, you can push because we're 100%, close to 90% net long, and we're at the top of the session. Okay, top of the session. So remember, longs are all here from getting paid. Come up to here, supply zone. Let's see what we do. If this holds, lower high, you're going to come back into this area. Okay. Let's see what we do. If you break that support hold, yeah, you're going to go test this level. All right. That 197.48. If it breaks, you're most likely going down to 195, that major bull bear line level that I talk about. If this breaks, boom, and starts the control price, you're going to go down to this swing low, the 191. Okay, the 191. So, that's pretty much it. Okay, now it all depends how these internals look today. How do they look? I don't know because that's only when the market opens. Okay, so that's the analysis for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Please give me a like if you did. Okay. Now, as always, hopefully you can join me every day. Do this every morning. Give you the market story. Give you the leaders and the laggards, the market news, the economic calendar. Right. I give you daily charts. We go over the bond market, the dollar, and the VIX. Then I go into the ES and Nasdaq futures analysis, which I just gave you, long and short trade scenarios. Okay. Let's follow the plan. Let's have a great day. No trades a trade. Let's try to stay green today. Today's a Friday. All right, so everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. All right, take it easy.